that basically handles some of the boilerplate of attaching components to the store for us. So I'm just going to use the stack chat repo, which maybe is unwise because you'll probably be doing this again. Like, I'm probably going to end up doing some refactorings that you have to do in the workshop, but that's okay. I trust that it'll only kind of make sense when I do it up here anyway. It's like everyone's like, yeah, no. Okay, so let's say, okay, so this is the top of our app. We've got our router. We're rendering main in here. So the first thing that, the first part of React Redux is that it provides the store to your entire React component tree. And it does so via context, which is this same like magical React feature that the router uses. And it works in a similar way. You wrap your whole app in a tag, in a provider tag, that provides the store. Oh, I kind of like that. Comma on its own line. And we, of course, have to import provider from React Redux and install React Redux. And we probably also need the store from the store. So that should go in like. Is the store the default export? Export default store, yeah. Okay, so doing this means that all of our components will, in principle, be able to access the store. And then we have to go and use the other half of React Redux, which is the connect higher order component, to describe how each of our how each of our components connects to the store. Basically, like, what do we want from the store?
So here, all of the components we have to use store through props.
In which components?
You're sending it to the main where to send that store in past
in the index. Yeah, so this store is going to get sent down to all the components, not through props, but through context. Which basically means it's like happening, it's flowing down without you having to know that it's going down. Like, the router knows nothing about the store, and it doesn't have to.
And who provides that functionality? It's React or the provider that
the provider provides the store. Which, that wasn't, but yeah, that's what happens. Okay, so let's look at what is a component that uses the store. I guess main uses the store. Message list. Okay, let's look at that one. Yeah. So this one has, okay, we're filtering on, oh, I see, on what the current channel ID is. And the channel ID is provided as a prop, is that correct? Oh yeah, so it's provided as a router prop. Yeah, so okay, so instead of exporting this class as the default, we're actually just not going to export it. And in fact, let's make it a dumb component. Messages equals, and we'll just not have it subscribe to the store at all. And every time we see this.props, we just need props. Oh, it was only one place. And instead of state.messages, we're going to take messages as props as well. Okay, so I think now this component is done. And the last thing we have to do is connect it to the store. So to connect it to the store, we're going to import connect from React Redux. And pray that my autocomplete is working because I'm never totally sure of the arguments. Oh, there we go, there we go. Okay, great. Yeah, so connect takes two arguments, actually. The first is map state to props, which is a function that receives receives a state from the store and returns an object of props to be passed into the component. So so if we define this function like this, map state to props. This state is going to be a store state, and then we can return the props we want from it. So where are the messages on the store? Are they state.messages? Great. Okay, so connect takes map state to props. It also takes a map dispatch to props that we can just leave as null because we don't need it right now. And it returns a function that, it basically returns a connection, which is a function that you can call with a component in order to connect it to the store and in order to get back a component that is connected to the store. So what this does is it altogether returns a new component that connects our messages component to the store by saying that this component should receive messages as a prop derived from state.messages. So let's see if that actually happens. Cool. Things are still here. What happens if I just always make this empty? Because it would have been nice to see it broken at least once. Oh, no. I don't trust that it's working. Oh, now I trust that it's working. Yeah, it says, here are the parts of state that I care about. So the thing that, the object that I return from map state to props is, it's going to get merged into the props that this component receives. So if we go look at what that is, that was the wrong way of doing it. I need to use the sniper. Oh, actually, there it is. So here we still have our route. We're going to, we're matching channels and then a channel ID. And then we still have the messages component, but now in between the two, we have this connect messages component, which is very weird because we did not put it there. But that's what this connect higher order component returns. And this weird intermediate component is the thing that is actually managing state. So this component, for some reason, has an empty state object, which is kind of surprising. But whenever the store state updates, let's try. Yeah, huh. I'm really surprised that its state is always empty. But I wonder, oh, I think connect is being one step too clever for us. But however it manages its own state internally, it is like handling the part of the React loop where you need some component whose state changes in order to cause messages to update whenever the store updates. So this component is connecting to the store and subscribing to it, and whenever it changes, it updates its React state. I think what we're seeing is that it updates it to an empty object all the time, and then sends down different props whenever its listener is called. I don't know why it does that. So these are the two parts of React Redux. Step one, which you only ever have to do once, is to put the provider at the top of your store, or at the top of your app. And then step two is to connect everything that cares about the store to the store. Map state to props actually receives one other parameter. So it gets the current store state, and it also gets the props that were put on this component, on the component that was returned from Connect, which means that we can access the router props here. And so if we really wanted to, we could actually push some of this logic into the connection by saying that this will just be messages.map, and the channel ID we can get here as own props match params channel ID. And then this we should just put here. So I think this will have no effect. Everything should still work. But it's always nice when we break things. What happened? Channel ID is not defined. Oh, I see. I still need this here. But actually, I could just pass it in as a prop. And then so this dramatically simplifies our messages component, right? It just takes a list of messages in the channel ID, and then in the connection is where we specify how like the router props interact with the Redux state in order to create the props for this component. This has some nice advantages in that the connect higher order component will actually be smarter than we could be, or be smarter than we are being, about when we should update. It'll basically only tell React to update our component when any of these actual props that we need change.
So we write the map state to the prop function.
Yeah, so you write this. So it's not like particularly less code, right? Because we've taken complexity out of messages and put it into this connection. But separating it in this way gives us a couple of benefits. One is that we can connect the same component in different ways, so we potentially have more reusability. And the other is that by separating out these parts of our data flow, we get slightly better performance because we can, because React Redux and specifically Connect can just look at this object and sort of do a deep comparison, and if none of it has changed, then it doesn't cause your component to update. Whereas the way that we have been doing it, every time anything changes in the store, React has to, will cause your component to re-render and have to do a diff against what your component rendered and what is already showing on the page. Other questions? There's one more part of React Redux that we should look at. And that is, let's look at the new message entry. So yeah, so here we dispatch some stuff. So we dispatch write message, post message, I guess it's just write message and post message. This is less than ideal because it means that we have to grab a reference to the store from like whatever components need to dispatch actions. And we already have this provider at the top of our app which knows about the store and is providing it to our app. So it would be nice if we could just like get the store, or really just get the dispatch function from that provider somehow. And we can, there's a second argument to map state, or there's a second argument to connect that will give that to us. Let's see how to do this. I want to change this as minimally as possible because this lecture's getting long. So I'm going to change these to this.props.writeMessage and this.props.postMessage. And then we'll leave the rest of how new message entry works alone and just see how we can dispatch these actions without calling dispatch on the store directly. So now new message is expecting these to be passed in as props. And so we need to pass them in as props here, which means we need them as props here, which means we need to use a second argument to connect. And that argument is map dispatch to props, which is, it takes a couple of forms. One is a function that takes the dispatch function and returns props. The simpler form, that is what you need like 99% of the time, is this. The simpler form is to just pass in an object with action creators. And if you pass in an object with action creators, they will get sort of magically bound to the store and provided as props. So now we will have access to post message and write message from props, and we can pass them down here. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we still import them, and sometimes your action creators will be sort of separate from the store. Here the whole store is in one file. Usually we separate those out a little bit more. Yeah, but you still need access to the action creators. And then you provide them as an object as the second argument to connect. Yeah, so then messages will get them as props, and then we can take them off props and hand them to new message entry. It would make more sense for new message entry actually to connect to the store on its own and ask for those two things. I just don't want to dig into that right now.
Right. Okay.
Does it still work? It does. Yay. And then if I post to a different thing, another dog, why must we fight so? Great. This is a pretty cute ad. Okay, so you will get the opportunity to practice with that. Any other questions? I think the workshop will show you another form of map dispatch to props as well, where you can specify a function here and do more complex things. But most of the time, just an object of action creator is all you need. Okay, cool. I will make pairs. Take a little break.